Everything I remember is considered delusional. According to the public records, our parents died years before we moved into that house on Olive Street. The doctors say Travis and I fabricated an elaborate fantasy to cope with the trauma of being orphaned and sent to foster care. But I know the truth. I still recall every moment in vivid detail. The twisting halls, the writhing walls, the vile sounds in the darkness as that house consumed our parents. How Travis and I managed to escape remains a blur. All I know is that we fled from the ruins of a house that should not have existed. It started with the whispers. At first, I thought they were echoes of our voices, lost in the cavernous rooms of our new home. But the whispers turned into groans that the structure itself exhaled at night, when the shadows stretched far enough to have their own darkness. Travis heard them too, the creaks that followed our footsteps, always a step behind, like a predator stalking its prey. The house seemed to breathe. Walls pulsed softly, almost imperceptibly, in the dim light of the evening. Doors that were once there vanished, replaced by new ones that led to rooms we had never seen before. Rooms that seemed to defy reality, twisting in non-Euclidean angles that hurt your eyes and scrambled your mind if you stared too long. Our parents laughed it off, attributing it to the house's old bones and our vivid imaginations. But the changes kept coming. Our parents remained blind to the changes. "It's an old house," Dad would say, brushing off our concerns. "Old houses settle. But houses don't whisper your name in the dead of night, mimicking voices of long-dead residents. Nor do they rearrange themselves while you sleep, turning comfortable bedrooms into alien labyrinths." One evening at dinner, the light flickered and dimmed. Shadows seemed to creep across the walls, swallowing up the cheerful wallpaper. The antique cabinet doors creaked open slowly as if pushed by an invisible hand. Mother insisted it was just faulty wiring, as the dishes began to rattle violently on the table. Travis and I exchanged a knowing look. The house was revealing itself, and our parents refused to see. That night, the house revealed its true nature. Hallways stretched into endless tunnels, stairs twisted into impossible geometries, and rooms folded upon themselves like the pages of a twisted storybook. I watched in mute horror as the foyer warped into an expanse of maze-like angles no architecture could account for. Travis sobbed beside me. The living room distorted, walls bending inward, the ceiling stretching into an abyss-like vortex above us. The windows elongated, then sealed over with oozing flesh, and from the vortex, an awful wheezing, scratching sound. The house was alive and ravenous. We huddled together through that endless night, witnessing the surreal ballet of the shape-shifting architecture. The air was charged with a malevolent energy, as if the house fed on our terror. With the sunrise, the transformation ceased, but the nightmare had just begun. Morning light brought no relief, only the realization that we were now prisoners in our own home. Windows were bricked over or replaced by cavernous mouths with dripping fangs. Doors led to nowhere or looped back into the same room no matter which way we turned. Travis sobbed and pounded the unyielding walls until his fists bled. Our parents, once dismissive, now shared our panic. The same tunnels we had tried to warn them about had finally ensnared them too. We were trapped in the belly of this impossible house. We decided to try escaping through the basement, the only part of the house that had remained unchanged. Or so we thought. The familiar wooden stairs had mutated into a descent of warped flesh and bone. Each step sank and oozed under our feet. The deeper we went, the thicker the air became, rotting and suffocating, as if we were descending into the bowels of a corpse. Whispers turned into screams, the very essence of the house seeming to mock our attempts to flee its all-consuming embrace. The churning walls convulsed with a grotesque life, slick membranes pulsating, writhing with faces that formed briefly, then melted back into the viscous surface. In that endless descent, visions plagued us, flashbacks or perhaps the house's memories. We witnessed its unnatural birth, rising from a foundation literally soaked in blood. The first owners had slaughtered their family in occult rituals, believing their souls would fortify the walls. Over the decades, more souls were fed to the house, woven into its fabric, feeding its ever-growing appetite for anguish and madness. Our parents, now part of its latest feast, screamed mutely inside the house's hellish labyrinth. Their souls fused into the twisting anatomy, their horror preserved for an eternity of torment. For the house was a living hell, and we were its newest playthings. Somehow we finally emerged, not where we entered but vomited onto the front lawn, by the house itself. As we staggered away, I glanced back at walls dripping bloody anguish, marrow-filled pipes snaking across its surface. Travis seized my arm and we fled, a wet crunching behind us signaling the house was devouring our parents' remains. We ran until sunrise, hearing the now familiar whispers follow us, the house's shadow looming ahead no matter how far we went. We eventually returned to the world, filthy and raving. But our story was labeled delusional. Our parents had died before we ever stepped foot in that house, we were told. Yet sometimes I still hear their screams at night. I have since lost Travis. He disappeared one day, leaving me to wander alone with our truth no one else believes. I've even driven past Olive Street to find the house still there, now a cheap rental, with new families arriving regularly. They never seem to stay long, and in the home next door lives the old man, unchanged by time, who watches me with knowing eyes that have seen what lurks within those walls, and all the souls consumed by the ravenous hunger of the house on Olive Street.